It really is shaping up to be a very busy end to the summer transfer window for Manchester United. If everything goes through that we're seeing being reported. Now, Jean Clear Todibo, he's a 23-year-old defender from Nice. Who is he? How good is he? Why would Erik Ten Hag be looking at him? What I'm going to do in this video is run through the full story of Todibo to Manchester United, where the stories and the rumours first began. And they began last summer. This isn't a player who's just being linked right now. I'm going to run through those chronologically today. Then take a look at what sort of player he is, where would he tactically fit in, and also just give you everything you need to know ahead of our scouting report that will go out on Todibo maybe next week, maybe later this week. Who knows? But drop a like on this video if you would, and subscribe to United People's TV. I'm going to try and cover everything as much as I can now that I'm back in business. But Todibo, okay? Let's run through the full story. What I do in these videos is take a look, as I said, at the full story, when the rumours first began and how they've developed to date, so we can understand a little bit more about the reliability of them, X, Y, Z. Right. You can go back to last July when the first links between Todibo and Manchester United began. Obviously, last summer, Manchester United ended up signing Lisandro Martinez, but we were linked with other defenders. It was Jurrien Timber, I believe, first, and obviously Louis van Gaal was like, don't join Man United, and then he didn't, and then we signed Martinez. That worked out fine. But he was on United's radar last summer, which indicates to us that Ten Hag has identified him far earlier than just a panic sort of concept. Oh, if Harry Maguire's leaving, we need to sign somebody. That's what I would say at the start. And then we go here to how the stories have developed across the course of the season. You can see down there, 28th of April. Again, that's when the reports came out from France linking us with a move for Todibo. And that's just accelerated and developed. Fabrizio Romano saying here, back in May, that Newcastle United and Liverpool scouts all sent scouts to watch him in action against Rennes. That was back in May. And here we are in June. And it was, Axel Disasi and Kim Min-jae. Two other defenders, Disasi from Monaco and Kim Min-jae, who now, of course, has left and joined, well, left Napoli and joined Bayern Munich. Both of those have been linked. But now Todibo is emerging as that main candidate. So we have been looking at different right-sided centre-backs all across the summer. In August, we head to where we are now. United have had contacts to be informed on a Todibo deal. No bid or talks at this stage. And this was on the 7th. This was, what, yesterday? And it will only be activated if Maguire leaves. Fabrizio Romano reiterating the same thing today. You've got Laurie Whitwell from The Athletic saying, look, if Maguire does leave, there's kind of two options on the table for Manchester United. On the one hand, you've got a signing of Todibo from Nice. On the other hand, if that doesn't work out and United don't have the money, Johnny Evans. Maybe he could be a stopgap one-year signing until we then sign that centre-back next summer. And then we reach the point, which is where we are at with the full story. And this was coming from Fabrice Hawkins from RMC Sport out in France, saying this, that Manchester United have opened discussions with Nice and with his representatives. We're waiting to sell Harry Maguire. Once that happens, ideally that happens and West Ham complete the signing of him, United will accelerate a move for Todibo. So that's what's happened. We've been linked with him last summer, the whole way through to now, where reports from France are suggesting that we've opened discussions with Nice and his representatives. Now, if you look at how transfers, well, Manchester United's transfers anyway, I don't know about the rest of them. If you look at how we've done our transfers this summer with Mason Mount, with Andre Onana, and with Rasmus Højlund, we agreed personal terms with all three of them before we'd agreed a bid and a deal with the clubs in question. So maybe that's going to be how this transfer develops. And I'll be honest, the way that those three transfers have developed, they've gone pretty well in terms of the negotiations, in terms of the final offers, in terms of getting those personal terms agreed first. So keep an eye out on that one. But of course, anything to do with Todibo pretty much relies on Maguire leaving. I wouldn't say it completely exclusively relies on him leaving, because United could sell McTominay, we could sell Fred, we could sell Van der Beek, we could sell Williams and Bailly. I already did a video on this earlier today, which you can watch. Obviously, you should go back on the channel. But Maguire leaving and Todibo coming in, it's not a like-for-like swap in terms of the profile of the player, but it's a like-for-like swap in terms of the spot in that squad. Because let's take a quick look at a pizza chart here, which compares Harry Maguire to Jean Todibo in terms of the strengths of their game. Let's go full screen so you can see that there. You can see, right, let's go with this. Let's pull these up. you can see exactly where Todibo is better than Maguire, right? Todibo is the red pizza chart. Maguire is the green pizza chart. Passes attempted, quite similar, but pass completion, it's an easy victory for Todibo. Progressive passes, it's an easy victory for Todibo. Interestingly enough, Maguire, actually, I say it's not that interesting because Maguire's good at bringing the ball forward. It's just he rarely ever does that. Well, who cares? I don't need to talk about the strength of Harry Maguire anymore. Hopefully we're selling him. In terms of taking players on, that is where Todibo is stronger as well, and also in the tackle. Harry Maguire dominates down here in terms of aerials, clearances, blocks, but in terms of an actual progressive ball-playing centre-back, Jean Clear Todibo is easily a better fit and a better defender than Harry Maguire for Erik Ten Hag and Erik Ten Hag's system. If we take a look at where he's played for Nice, you can see this too. This is this season, last season, sorry, and you can see he's heavily right-hand sided. But I think there's an interesting point I'll make here about maybe Erik Ten Hag isn't just looking at him as a centre-back, a centre-back option. And you can take a look at how and where he played the season before for Nice, and he was even slightly more progressive. You can see his heat map even creeping over the halfway line. He is a progressive, ball-playing centre-back with good recovery pace, someone who can cover the space in behind. And I think that's where we need to start looking at this and say, right, okay, so where would he fit in the system? He'd effectively be, I'm not going to call him a backup to Varane. I'm going to call him an alternative to Varane. So I think that's a fairer way to describe him. But let's say he goes in this system here. Varane, look, we all know that Erik Ten Hag last season, Varane and Martinez was the centre-back partnership, right? When they were fit, that was when Manchester United played their best football. But it's fair to have a concern about the concept of Varane playing 2 times a week at the top level, Premier League, Champions League, for the full season. Odds are he probably won't be able to do that. He's retired from international football to focus on his domestic football because he knows that his kind of body is reaching certain limits and he wants to be at the highest level at the top for as long as possible. So next season, in an ideal world, Erik Ten Hag would have an alternative to Raphael Varane. And if he's just an alternative there, I don't really need to tell you too much about his game because it will be very similar to how Varane plays. He's confident with the ball at his feet. He can bring it forward. But I think this is an interesting one to consider, right? Because what United do, I've explained the shape. When we go forward, we're in possession. Erik Ten Hag likes that 3-1-6 system. That is where everybody pushes up and one of the fullbacks pushes forward. Now, let's say, for example, if you're looking at which fullback pushes forward most for United, it's more down the right-hand side with Luke Shaw hanging back in the 3. But let's say that switches. Let's say Luke Shaw ends up being the fullback that goes forward more, and maybe Varane starts, and maybe Todibo could actually play out on the right-hand side, because all of a sudden you would see the 3 at the back being 3 centre-backs. It's something worth considering. Luke Shaw pushing forward, creating the overload, going inside, being the extra inverted fullback. You know how the system goes going forward. That could happen. And it's something worth considering as potentially an alternative to Dalot and Wan-Bissaka. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but as you can see from his heat map here, right? He's somebody who's very right-sided heavy. He's a right-sided centre-back. And he does have the ability to play over there on the channels. So maybe Erik Ten Hag could look at him and say there's certain games where he needs to use that. Certain games where he'd rather have that extra recovery pace at right back. Todibo could do that. So it's certainly something worth considering. So I would say that if Todibo joins, it would be Maguire out, Todibo in. Price-wise, I think Fabrizio Romano quoted a price a couple of months ago, around about 45 million euros. You probably wouldn't be looking at too different a price. Maguire leaving for 30, 35. Todibo joining for 35, 40. Not too much of a difference. Kind of like for like. Now, interestingly enough, and I don't know whether this would have any bearing on whether we'd be able to sign Todibo and how easy it would be. He plays for Nice. Jim Ratcliffe owns Nice. We know what's going on with Jim Ratcliffe and Manchester United right now. It's something worth considering. I don't imagine it would affect it dramatically because the most expensive sale they've ever had as a football club is 30 million euros. That was, I think, Jean Clear to Fulham. and that was in 2018. If they get a bid like that, they'll probably sell him. And Erik Ten Hag would have another ball-playing centre-back, somebody who does have the athletic stature, has the recovery pace, has the size to play inside, maybe a back three when United are pressing forward. You know, the Guardiola system, that's what he's done with Aki, Akanji, and Laporte, or whoever played in the centre-back. Is it right? Who played? Sod knows. Who cares? Anyway, that is the full story right now of Jean Todibo. I've explained that to you in a bit of detail, giving you a little bit of an insight into what sort of player he is. Going to have more of a detailed scouting report on him coming out soon. I'll bring that to you as soon as possible. Big up Steve for helping with the research on those. But drop a like on the video. You can let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll follow this story as it develops, but maybe Maguire out, Todibo in. It could happen.